power of malevolence, also known as the harbinger of disaster, suddenly appeared around the world. Numerous monsters emerged from the tower, plunging humanity into a state of hopelessness as these creatures brought mankind to the brink of extinction. Just when all seemed lost, the first generation of awakeners appeared. Known as the Founders, they managed to suppress the monsters and eventually conquer and destroy the tower. This victory marked humanity's first triumph against the invasion from another dimension. The Founders were hailed as heroes, and their legacies are commemorated at the Mausoleum of the Founders. A century later, our protagonist, Kannagi Minato, enjoys reading about their legends, which are available in the library. He reads about the great swordsman who, with a mere wooden stick from a tree branch, managed to cut down a 10,000-strong army, and the wise wizard who could chant any magic without incantation. In the current era, these tales are regarded as mere legends or fairy tales. Despite this, Kannagi dreams of marking his name in history, just like the Founders. He knows he possesses the seal of the Chosen Ones. A crest has appeared on his body. With that crest, he pledges to make his name as an awakened, just as the Founders did. Tragically, while his classmates cheer for passing their qualification test, Kannagi remains silent, staring at his phone, which shows that he failed the hunter's qualification test. In tears, he watches everyone celebrate around him. His classmates tease him, saying they will go to the party to celebrate their admission and ask him to clean some trash. As an awakened, he knows that writing down their name guarantees passing the test, but he has failed for 3 years in a row and is mocked as a disgrace. This was his last chance to take the test, and he now believes he can never become a hunter. He picks up the trash in the classroom, sadly reflecting that, despite getting a full score on the written test and training his aura, his crest seems useless, more like a scar than a blessing. With tears in his eyes, holding a trash can, he shouts that he also wants to be like the Founders. Suddenly, a man calls his name, telling him to hurry to the school gate. Startled, he stutteringly replies that he completely forgot, sighing. He thinks that if possible, he wants to be idolized and cheered on like the Founders. At the gate, the students are talking about the man standing before them. Hisaki Kaisei, and a rank hunter, smiles apologetically to everyone for causing the commotion. Meanwhile, Hisaki's minions shout at him, saying he's late and making Hisaki wait, to which he stutteringly apologizes. Hisaki walks over to his minions, telling them to stop, and asks if he was right, that it wasn't like he was bullying the weak. One of his minions tries to explain, but Hisaki, with a creepy smile, asks if they saw the reporters behind him. His minions quickly apologize. One of the reporters then tells Hisaki that they are looking forward to the documentary, and shows Hisaki his picture, saying they would like to use it as the cover. The reporter explains that it was taken at the defeated a dragon with a single slash of his sword, and asks Hisaki what he thinks about it. Hisaki replies that it's a really good picture, but a bit embarrassing. Kannagi and Hisaki enrolled in the academy together 3 years ago. Hisaki was a genius who scored at the top of the class in every subject. During their time together, Hisaki has been bullying Kannagi. Kannagi can't believe he needs to spend an entire day with Hisaki during the documentary, making him wonder why Hisaki wants him there. The reporter asks Hisaki who the person behind him is. Hisaki replies that he wants to introduce someone from the same academy generation, but then whisperingly asks one of his minions what his name is again. The minion replies, Kannagi Minato, which Hisaki then tells the reporter. Hisaki adds that although Kannagi's grades aren't great, he always asks Hisaki for favors, leaving him with almost no time for his training. He also claims that he gives Kannagi advice and guidance, leaving Kannagi stunned and confused. Kannagi is even more surprised when Hisaki tells the reporters that Kannagi sometimes asks for financial support. Kannagi knows this is bullshit because, while Hisaki always took his money, Kannagi never asked for anything from him. He had never experienced such a pathetic year in his life before. The reporter, amazed by Hisaki's story, tells Hisaki that he is the embodiment of perfection. Hisaki then grabs Kannagi, shouting to the reporters to look forward to it because he will be an awakened who will write history. The reporter then shouts to Kannagi, saying he must be happy to receive Hisaki's kindness, and asks if he has any words for his benefactor. Kannagi is about to respond that there is no way he would do it, but Hisaki whispers to him that he failed the test and is completely worthless, so they should settle this peacefully. Hisaki squeezes Kanagi's shoulder tightly, making him remember the bullying. Smiling in fear, Kanagi tells the reporter that he is completely grateful for everything Hisaki has done for him, and that there are no words to describe his gratitude. After that, Hisaki walks forward, leaving Kanagi behind, and tells the reporter that since they don't have much time, they should move on to the next topic. Hisaki points to his trophies, leaving Kanagi shaking in fear. Kanagi hears someone behind him questioning if they really need his name in the article. But one of the reporters responds that they don't because no one would be interested anyway. Kanagi realizes that even if someone is evil, as long as they have the power to become a hunter, everyone would be on their side and their name would be remembered. He tries to stop the tears in his eyes while stutteringly saying his name. Suddenly, someone shouts his name, shocking him. He sees Hisaki and his minions walking closer, with Hisaki telling him to come to the mausoleum of the founders after school. Kanagi asks why and wonders what is happening and what will happen after. But Hisaki just smiles and asks if he wants to take a re-examination, confusing Kanagi even more. Hisaki tells him that he will talk to the association. When Kanagi asks why Hisaki is doing this, Hisaki responds that it's a way to increase his popularity. And the last scene of the documentary is set at the mausoleum, so they need to film there and discuss it afterwards. Hisaki then warns him that he must come. Kanagi wonders if this is real but thinks that even though he hates the idea of being used by Hisaki to increase his popularity, it's another chance for him regardless of the situation. He smiles, swearing that this time, he will pass for sure. Later, in the mausoleum of the founders, the reporter captures footage of Hisaki saying, "At the mausoleum of the founders, a single top-class hunter pledges to protect humanity's future," and this moment is truly picture perfect. After that, the reporters tell Hisaki they managed to take a good picture and thank him for his time during his busy day. Hisaki replies that he looks forward to the article. Once the reporters leave, Hisaki moves further into the mausoleum. When he arrives where his minions are waiting, he asks if they have found the entry point. His minions excitedly reply that they have and point to a secret pathway, asking if it is the one they were looking for. Suddenly, someone asks from behind what they are doing. Hisaki nonchalantly asks if he hasn't figured it out yet, and tells him it's a treasure hunt. Kanagi angrily shouts at Hisaki, calling him a grave bandit and asking if he even understands who is resting in that place. Hisaki responds that of course he knows, but then he kicks one of the founder's statues and asks if he's right that it's only the rotten bodies of the past. He explains that they couldn't let the chance slip away to become millionaires and dismisses the importance of the founders' remains, saying they are just dead bodies and don't matter. Kanagi acknowledges that the founders were amazing, which is why he wants to be like them. Unawakened, whose name is marked in history, enraged, Kanagi rushes to attack Hisaki, calling him a bastard. However, Hisaki sidesteps swiftly and punches him hard in the stomach, making him cough up blood. He collapses to the ground, clutching his stomach in pain, while Hisaki berates him for daring to attack. Hisaki continues to assault him, making him think he might die, but then one of Hisaki's minions calls out, saying they found something and shows a lot of valuable items, which shocks him. Hisaki grabs a crystal and excitedly asks if the aura is emitting from the item itself. Hisaki shouts that it's wonderful and that with it, he could live without needing to work for the rest of his life. Kanagi tries to stop them, shouting not to touch it, but his voice fails to come out. Hisaki then grabs him by the shirt and says he'll explain it as simply as possible so a failure like him can understand. Hisaki reveals that he had been looking for a weakling like him all along, having tricked him with the promise of a re-examination. He knew about Kanagi visiting the library all the time, and found it amusing. Finally, Hisaki declares he has found a useful pawn. Hisaki then drags him outside, smilingly shouting that he dreamed of becoming a hunter. So he finally decided to steal the treasures of the mausoleum and go missing, which is a tragic story. Kanagi stutteringly tells Hisaki to stop the bullshit, but Hisaki continues, saying it will be tomorrow's top news. Hisaki then lifts him over a cliff, telling him that after robbing the mausoleum of the founders and escaping from the police, the culprit will be a third-year hunter from the training academy. Hisaki then lets go of him and mockingly asks for his name again. Kanagi looks at Hisaki in anger and fear, but Hisaki tells him that knowing his name doesn't matter now and says goodbye. Kanagi falls into the river, wondering if this is how he will die after all the training and tests. He thinks everything was meaningless because he is fading away without being remembered by anyone. Suddenly, lights appear around him and many figures surround him. He hears them saying that he will be their vessel and grant their wish. The figures introduce themselves as the heroic spirits sealed in that place, the very souls of the founders. Shocked, he wonders what this means, hearing voices and seeing lights from the founders. One of the founders tells him that the crest on his hand is the crest of nothingness. It doesn't possess any power by itself, but it can manifest any power he could have never imagined. The voice tells him to choose one of them and form a contract, because they are the pinnacle of every art. Magic, endurance, swordsmanship, spearmanship, summoning magic, alchemy, and more. Whoever he chooses, he will gain power from that benefactor. The voice asks him whose power he seeks. He initially thinks of wanting power like Hazaki's but changes his mind. He responds that he wants a power incomparable in the world, a power to overwhelm everything and wipe away all the humiliations he endured. Another voice then tells him to decide whom he chooses. Kannagi replies that he wants everything and all of their powers, they should give him everything. The founders consider him greedy, thinking it's impossible, as no matter how strong the vessel is, taking everything would be a mess. But Kannagi absorbs them all, shouting at them to shut up, and instead of yapping their mouths, to enter him. Kannagi pushes himself to absorb all the heroic spirits, causing mixed reactions among the founders. Some panic, some are amazed, others don't care, and some wonder who he is. Eventually, he absorbs all of them. From atop the hill, Hisaki looks back when he sees a light emerging from the river. Suddenly, the river rises as if something exploded beneath it, making everyone turn and wonder what is happening. Kannagi then flies out of the river, landing on the hill in front of Hisaki and his minions with different hair and eye colors. One of Hisaki's minions sneers, saying Kannagi crawl back like a tenacious roach. Kannagi breaks a small branch off a long branch and swings it at Hisaki's minions, who are shocked and ask what the hell he is doing. Hisaki's minions then teasingly laugh at him, asking if he really intends to fight them with a stick. Kannagi continues to swing his stick, prompting Hisaki to sigh and tell his minions to end it, ensuring Kannagi doesn't crawl back again. Hisaki orders his minions to cut Kannagi's head off. One of the minions grabs his sword and arrogantly replies to Hisaki that he understands. He taunts Kannagi, saying that based on the recent exam, his sword aura is a rank and he has mastered the way of the swordsman. He tells Kannagi to be grateful to be cut down by him. Kannagi simply responds, mastering the way of the swordsman. The man then jumps towards Kannagi, slashing at him with his sword. Smiling, the man stops behind him, but then blood begins to pour from all over his body and head as if he had been slashed. The man screams in pain, while Hisaki and the other minion look on in shock, unable to believe what they are seeing. Kannagi then tells the man that he has mastered the way of the swordsman and asks him what kind of swordsmanship he uses. The other minion casts a spell, calling upon the green cradle and the gaze of destruction. Kannagi points his finger at the minion and tells him that he is slow. He then attacks the minion with a spell, Thunderbolt Hadet, without any incantation. The minion cannot believe it, and a powerful thunderbolt strikes him, electrocuting him to death. Hisaki cannot believe that Kannagi cut down his minion with nothing but a mere branch and cast magic without any incantation. Hisaki recalls the legend of a great swordsman who, long ago, cut down a 10,000-strong army with only a single wooden stick, and a wizard who could chant any magic without incantation. In the current era, these stories are considered mere legends or fairy tales. Now, the souls of the awakeners that slumbered in the mausoleum of the founders dwell within Kannagi Minato. There are 106 souls inside his body. Kannagi remembers Hisaki telling everyone that he would mark his name in history as an awakened. He walks closer to Hisaki, declaring that his name shall not be forgotten, and that he shall be remembered eternally, including the new myth about him. Kannagi stops approaching Hisaki, unable to believe that he managed to absorb the souls of the founders with his crest of nothingness. He hears the founders inside him, content and excited, marveling at the spaciousness of their new home. They ask how many centuries it has been since they were freed from boredom. Kannagi smiles, feeling the founders' happiness. He had memorized their legends for a long time, and now their souls are inside him. However, the founders decide it will be a race to see who gets to control his body. The great swordsman, Inoki Ryukairu, calls to Kannagi, surprising him. Hinoki remarks that it is expected to be remembered after such a long time. He asks Kanagi what he plans to do. Kanagi asks if he means dealing with Hisaki, but Hinoki dismisses Hisaki as trash and points behind him, asking what Kanagi will do about that. Shocked, Kanagi walks closer to Hisaki, who stutteringly tells him to stay away and not to look down on an rank hunter like him. Kanagi punches Hisaki in the face, sending him spinning in midair from the force. Kanagi then faces the bag that is releasing a dark aura and tells Hisaki to get out of the way. He focuses on the bag, and suddenly, a strong power emanates from it, surprising him. Hinoki, however, smiles calmly. Meanwhile, in the city, a Cerberus is attacking everything in its path. A man shouts to Kisaragi to handle it. Kisaragi faces the beast, and when it lunges at him, he jumps above it and attacks with a waterfall impact from above. The people cheer in amazement, shouting that Kisaragi instantly killed an A-rank monster. The Shrank Hunter Kisaragi thanks them for their compliments and asks where Hisaki is. The man tells Kisaragi that because of an interview, it must be nice to be called a young hope. But Kisaragi tells the man not to say it like that. If Hisaki becomes more popular, their guild's reputation will also rise. They decide to get a drink after filing a report when they hear a strong growl and feel intense pressure. Everyone panics, wondering if it is a demon. Kisaragi looked back when he heard his team in pain and saw normal people collapsing and hunters struggling because of the pressure. He noticed that a rank and B-rank hunters couldn't stand against it, indicating it was an S-rank monster, so Kisaragi immediately made a call. Meanwhile, on the street, people passed out due to the pressure, which was coming from the mausoleum of the founders. Hisaki, shakingly sitting up, was surprised to see a huge monster emerging from the bag in front of them. He asked if it was a demon and what the hell it was. Kanagi replied that it was because Hisaki had opened the mausoleum, releasing one of the boss monsters from the tower that was sealed there. The seal was undone when Hisaki took the items away. Hinoki confirmed this, explaining that some demons from the tower survive by hiding and becoming dormant. He identified the demon as the embodiment of emptiness, a stacked-eyed tiger estimated to be above S-rank in danger level. Hisaki tried to stand up, shaking, while Hinoki explained that the stacked-eyed tiger is a living disaster that kills numerous humans within a few kilometers with its poisonous aura. This demon was quite common during their era, but now is overwhelmingly powerful for the youngsters of this era. Panicking, Hisaki ran away, shouting that he needed to escape or else he would be killed. Kanagi warned Hisaki that it was better not to move, as the tiger targets moving objects. The stacked-eyed tiger saw Hisaki running and immediately lashed out with one of its tentacles. Hisaki, covering himself with his sword and shouting at the demon to stay away, was helpless as the tentacle pierced his chest. Despite having slain a dragon with his sword before, Hisaki couldn't stop the demon from spreading its tentacles inside his body. The stacked-eyed tiger began to absorb Hisaki, making him scream in pain. Kanagi simply told him that he had warned him. Hinoki then wrapped his hand around Kanagi and asked if he would give his body to him completely. Hinoki then asked if Kanagi wanted to see the founder Hinoki's one-handed sword style, thinking he would take the vessel while the others were distracted. Kanagi responded that he didn't mind lending his body, to which Hinoki excitedly agreed. However, another founder grabbed Hinoki and accused him of trying to run away with such a strong vessel, claiming it for themselves. Realizing he had been noticed, Hinoki tried to calm everyone down. They all stopped when Kanagi told them he had one condition. He would only lend his body to everyone. This confused them. Kanagi tells the founders that he will definitely surpass all of them and, in time, reach the same heights they did. He also wants to see how strong he will become. He then challenges them to show him what they've got. Hinoki wonders what Kanagi's deal is, thinking he's insane while drawing his sword. Hinoki then takes control of Kanagi's body and shouts to the other founders that they should join in. He slashes the demon with the stick, aided by Hinoki, severing one of the demon's arms. The demon launches its other arm to attack, but Kanagi, while looking at the chopped stick in his hand, manages to dodge as another founder possesses his body. He then uses his hand to cut the demon's arm, shocking the demon. Kanagi grabs a huge stick from the ground, and the spearman founder possesses his body, using the stick as a spear to attack the demon. Another founder then possesses him, allowing him to easily dodge the demon's attacks. The old founder takes over, enabling Kannagi to grab the demon's tentacle and slam it into the ground with immense force. The demon is flung into the air, and Kannagi grabs the back. The archer founder possesses him, and he aims and successfully hits the demon in the head. It screams in pain as its blood spreads around. Kannagi wipes his face and continuously attacks the demon in different ways as the founders possess his body one by one. Hinoki then takes control again and grabs Hisaki's broken sword from the ground. The demon attempts a surprise underground attack, but Kannagi's eyes turn yellow as the great wizard possesses him and electrocutes the demon. He then jumps, and when he is above it, Hinoki uses his one-handed sword style, Jekiratachi wave-cutting blade, to slash the demon in half, killing it. Kannagi smiles victoriously. Meanwhile, a raven perched on a tree watches everything that just happened. In the city, a man floating in midair answers his phone, incredulous that the demon was already defeated when he was just about to head over there. He asks if there are any strong hunters nearby. The person on the other line responds that, based on footage from the raven, it was a student of the academy. The man, surprised, acknowledges this. The world's strongest awakened, Ikuhara Midori then tells the person on the other line that he wants to meet that student. The next morning, Ikuhara is sitting on a pile of dead monsters, calling the director and informing him about the S-rank demon. The director asks if Ikuhara defeated it, but he replies that it was not him. Based on footage from his raven, it was Kannagi Minato who defeated it. Ikuhara mentions that Kannagi failed the hunter's examination 3 years in a row, which makes it hard for him to believe. He then asked the director if he could do him a favor. Meanwhile, at the academy, students are asking each other if they were okay yesterday because the aura was so awful that they couldn't move. One student jokes with his friend, asking what he would do if he told him that it was actually him who killed the monster. The friend dismisses it as impossible, noting that it has been 10 years since the last emergence of an hunter. However, the friend reminds him of a rumor that the one who defeated the monster was actually a student from the academy. Kannagi, walking with a stick to support, is shaking, while the other student dismisses the idea, thinking no hunter could defeat that demon, and if there was such a person, he wouldn't be in their academy. Kannagi is amazed that the only topic of conversation today is yesterday's incident. Suddenly, a man bumps him aside, telling him he's in the way. Kannagi falls to the floor, and the man thinks there is no way such a loser could be the Shrank Slayer while looking at him. Kannagi knows he defeated the demon yesterday, but it was because he lent his body to the founders. Now, his body is painfully torn apart as they recoil. Someone then laughingly asks him if he is completely okay with it, and when he looks up, he sees it as Hinoki. Hinoki tells him to get a grip and asks if he wanted to surpass them. Kannagi remembers saying it last night and confidently responds that he did. He pushes himself to stand up while Hinoki laughingly tells him to show his guts. Hinoki looks at the students and notices that the level of the awakeners in this era is too low, more or less the same as normal humans, which he considers trash. Hinoki also thinks that if the tower were to emerge right at that moment, the world would surely end. But then Hinoki is surprised to sense someone with a strong aura. Kannagi asks Hinoki what is wrong, but Hinoki replies it's nothing, though he thinks that just now he felt a tremendous aura. Suddenly, a professor shouted for Kannagi to hurry up and come over, apologizing. Kannagi asked if it was his letter of resignation, knowing that he had only 3 chances to take the tests and that the hunter's qualification test can only be taken from the training academy, meaning he would need to start over from the general admission slot. However, the professor told him to go to the field immediately because it was his re-examination, which surprised him. A moment later, the students watched from the window, wondering if there had ever been a hunter re-examination test before, but no one knew. Meanwhile, in the field, Kannagi's mission was a 100-meter sprint, with an average time of 3.6 seconds and a best record of 2.7 seconds. He knew he was not in perfect condition, but needed to give his best. The man who had pushed him earlier told the students that Kannagi was famous for being a failure even in the teacher's office, and that giving him a chance after 3 years of failure was just sympathy. However, when Kannagi began to run, everyone was shocked when he completed it in 1.2 seconds. In the next test, his mission was to complete a 3,000-meter sprint with an average time of 4 minutes and 20 seconds and a best record of 3 minutes and 17 seconds. To everyone's astonishment, he finished it in 1 minute and 17 seconds. The next test was push-ups in 2 minutes, with an average of 215 push-ups and a best record of 418 push-ups, but he managed 840 push-ups. The next test was the bench press, with an average weight of kilograms and a best record of 620 kilograms, yet he lifted of 1,280 kilograms. The students were shocked and asked what he was because he beat all the best records by more than double, and the ladies thought he was cool. Kannagi wondered if the founders were still lending him with their powers, but Hinoki knew they wouldn't help with something like this, and that they hadn't done anything. Meanwhile, in the headmaster's office, the headmaster gave Ikuhara all the current records of Kannagi Minato. Ikuhara thanked the headmaster and was amazed at Kannagi's records. The headmaster told Ikuhara that when he heard about the request for RE examination, he thought something was wrong, even though Kannagi's physical abilities are amazing. The real issue is his magic capacity, because in all the tests over the past 3 years, Kannagi's capacity was immeasurable, and he essentially had no mana. So the headmaster thought it would be a waste of their attention. Ikuhara's secretary commented that this was what they expected of Kannagi, but Ikuhara just laughed and said they would see about it. Meanwhile, in the field, he was taking the magic measurement tests. The professor asked if he understood how the measurement worked and explained that he had to use his magic to spin the giant fans within 30 seconds. The number of rotations would determine his score. He replied that he did. The average score for the test was 1,513 spins, and the best record was 4,022 spins. He stretched out his hand, remembering that in the past 3 years he couldn't even move the fans no matter how hard he tried. He couldn't control mana because he couldn't feel it at all, but now he could feel it circulating around him. From his right foot, it flowed upward into his body, circling inside him and returning to his right foot. He also knew that he could accelerate the cycle with his breathing and release it through the palm of his right hand. The professor then shouted for him to start. He released his mana into the fan, and the count machine began to register the spins. Suddenly, the fan spun rapidly, speeding up the count and shocking the professors. The fan turned so fast that the counting machine couldn't keep up, and the air from the fan made it difficult for the professors to see the score. Then, the machine holding the fan exploded, and the fan flew away. It soared towards a building, causing the students to panic, and crashed directly into the headmaster's office, causing a loud explosion. The headmaster narrowly avoided being hit and collapsed from the shock. Ikuhara's secretary was in disbelief, but Ikuhara laughed, saying it seemed Kannagi and he were alike. Ikuhara then looked at him, declaring that Kannagi was the second person in history after him to achieve an immeasurable score. The professor, who had witnessed everything, shouted that he had passed the hunter examination. The students cheered for him, exclaiming that he had achieved the best record in every test. He looked at his hand in disbelief, tears streaming down his face, and thanked them profusely, amazed that the power had been inside him all this time. Hinoki smiled, expecting this outcome, and Kannagi knew that by lending his body to the founders, the potential within him had been awakened. Laughingly, Hinoki told him that he was not an ordinary person with the crest of nothingness, and that he had been waiting for him for more than a century. Hinoki then asked if they would agree, and Kannagi might fulfill their wish, believing that he might be the one they had been waiting for. Just then, a strong aura landed in front of him, shocking him. He stutteringly asked what it was and if it was an explosion, but Hinoki recognized it as the tremendous aura he had felt that morning. Ikuhara greeted him, and he was stunned to see the legendary figure standing before him. Ikuhara congratulated him on his hunter examination results. He stutteringly thanked Ikuhara, unable to believe that the legend knew his name and wondering what was happening. Ikuhara then said they should start an additional test for him, suggesting they call it try to hit the strongest hunter at least once, which shocked him to his core. End of part 1 and 2. The title of this series will be in the comment section below. Please consider liking and subscribing. See you on the next video. Thanks for watching.